Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Audio bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by Winamp for Android, the ultimate media player for your desktop and Android device, featuring wireless sync. Download it free at winamp.com/Android. Video bandwidth for TWiT is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 292, recorded March 13th, 2011. South by Southwest, baby. This Week in Tech is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Business travel can kill your company's profits, so do more, save more, and travel less with GoToMeeting. For a free 30-day trial, visit gotomeeting.com/TWiT. And by Audible.com. Sign up for the Platinum Plan and get 2 free books. Go to audible.com/TWiT2 and follow Audible on Twitter. User ID Audible_com. And by Hover.com. Hover is domain name registration and management that's simple. For 10% off your new domain, go to twit.hover.com. Well, hello, Austin! We are at Momo's. Yeah. And we are having a blast. A whole bunch of TWiT heads with us today, and you are great. You guys are great. We are at South by Southwest, which, of course, is where the geeks gather every year. Nerd Fest 2011, South by Southwest Interactive. And we have such a great bunch of people on TWiT. We have probably 20 people on TWiT, so we're going to move through it pretty quickly and maybe get some more people in here and everything. But let me introduce the beginnings. What a great panel to start it off, starting on all the way on stage right with Ryan Block from GadgetGDGT.com. Sitting next to him, his partner, Peter Rojas, also from Gadget.com. Jeff Jarvis from This Week in Google, the author of What Would Google Do? Yeah, Jeff. Twig. Love Jeffrey. Next to him, Gina Trapani, a formerly life hacker, now smarterwear.org. Everybody's favorite geek. She's got the geek watch, too. She's got the that very cool watch with the nano on it there. Look at that. Oh, that's awesome. Baratunde Thurston in the house. He's from that fine site, L'Oignon. L'Oignon. They were handing out onion papers. There's actually a physical paper.
We have a special South by Southwest edition of America's
awesome.
Finest newspaper. Content rolling out this week on the web. It's
Awesome.
amazing. It's incredible. We're covering it pseudo-live.
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 I love the onion. It's awesome.
Good.
It's always good to have you on, Baratunde. Also sitting right next to him, at Cali Lewis from GeekBeat.tv. And my crowd surfing partner here, Lisa Bettany. Lisa's from MostlyLisa.com. She's also, of course, the host of our new photography show, Mostly Photo. But you crowd surfed last night.
I know, I did.
At the Dignation party. I said I would never do it again. And then Kevin, he's a little rabble-rouser. He got them chanting, Leo, Leo, and we had to do it. And so I'm standing there next to you, and I said, hey, I'll do it if you'll do it. And she said she would, which is brave, because women don't usually crowd surf.
Well, I thought it'd be a first,
It was a first. We got in the Universal Database, record database for longest crowd surf, first co-ed crowd surf, and biggest crowd surf, because we had 5 people, Kevin and Alex, you and me, Brian Brushwood, and David Prager.
Nice.
That's like 6 people.
Yeah.
And by the way, there weren't enough people to hold us all. I noticed
It was a bumpy ride.
they kept you suspended, but I'm going up and down and up and down. My pants almost came off. I'm sure Alex Albrecht lost his pants. Oh, my God.
What kind of crowd surf are you doing?
I'm never doing that again. I thought naked next year, naked crowd surfing.
You're on your own.
It was going to be a tattoo, Leo.
My pants are always falling down. I don't know
was
what's
suggesting
going on.
what Leo should do this year, to up last year, was to get a TWiT tattoo on his ass. He wouldn't do it.
The crowd surfing.
Shocking.
No idea why he would not do that.
Should
Jeff.
Leo do it?
No.
TWiT tattoo, TWiT tattoo,
No,
TWiT
please.
tattoo.
So, there is news this week. There's a lot of news this week. There was a pop-up store selling the iPad 2. I want to talk about that. But as long as we've got Peter and Ryan here, I think I really ought to put you guys on the spot. big story coming out of Engadget. The editor-in-chief, Joshua Topolsky, who was on this show last week, and his partner, Nilay Patel, both quitting Engadget. He's an editor-at-large like you are, Ryan. What is that? What the hell does that mean?
It's an honorary title.
Yeah. So did he leave in disgrace? Apparently not.
No.
What happened?
Well, it looks like, I'm not there anymore, so I can't say for sure.
But you must have some insight.
Yeah, well, both of us at one point left Engadget, left AOL. It just looks like things weren't super amazing at AOL, and, he had to do his thing, and Nilay as well.
Two things happened that might have been triggering events. One is they allowed Mike Arrington to go unchallenged, really slamming Engadget. Mike, of course, runs TechCrunch, which is a sister blog on AOL, and that's got to have stung a little bit. Right, Peter?
I'm not sure that had anything to do with it, to be honest.
You don't think so?
No, I think it might have been frustrating, but I think that the sheer bureaucracy that there is at AOL, I think that was probably the biggest factor, rather than TechCrunch or anything like that.
Or how about having to work for Ariana Huffington?
I don't think that was a factor either.
That not either.
No.
When I asked Joshua last week, I said, "How's it working for Ariana?" He was a little equivocal.
Well, technically, as of last week, it hadn't begun yet.
Yeah, she hasn't started working there yet.
Yeah, the deal didn't close until this last week. So now officially, but I don't know. I think Engadget's going to do fine under Ariana.
It doesn't hurt Engadget.
No, I don't think so.
Really? You agree, Jeff Jarvis?
Yeah, I do. There's a lot of controversy about the AOL way, which was a large PowerPoint that leaked to Business Insider that just mechanized the whole thing. We've heard about content farms. This is the content factory.
It was AOL basically saying content doesn't matter, just search results.
Here's how many pieces you got to do. Here's how long they have to be. Here's how much traffic you have to get. I interviewed Tim Armstrong at CUNY, my university, this week, and I asked him about this. I said, is the AOL way now the Ariana way? And he stood by the AOL way, and his argument was, I'll be curious to hear what you think of this, his argument was basically that it's just trying to make everybody's job easier because it's more efficient. Everybody else has to do more things, and he's trying to systematize it more for their benefit.
Well, whatever you think about that document and the AOL way and what that represents for content, I think it is worth noting that does not apply to Engadget. That kind of thing is never applied to Engadget. The way that we set it up when we brought Engadget to AOL was that AOL could never touch Engadget editorially. And that holds to today.
Yeah,
so
AOL
there's crap to deal with, but not that.
AOL's never interfered with editorial at all at Engadget, and that's not why anyone left. Really, I think it's.
But
more...
if it were just Joshua or just Nilay, maybe I would credit that. But them both leaving at the same time, that seems more significant. No,
They have a startup.
I can't speak for them ultimately, and I think they said their piece on the matter. But yeah, look, it's a grind. Blogging like that is a grind. It is.
Gina's
I
nodding.
can't even express. You really have no life.
It's much harder than it looks.
Yeah, I had no life until I quit Engadget.
Right.
And even now, I don't have that much of a life. But
They're actually they left together, so they're going to follow your model with the vowels
that's what I wondered.
this time. So they're going to start EAE to match your GD.
Yeah, that's possible.
It's going to be great.
We already own the trademark on that.
I was wondering if maybe they'd contacted you. It sounded like they were going somewhere.
we always talk, but what we're doing and what Engadget does is very different. We're not a news site.
You're not all about content. You're about liking a gadget, reviewing a gadget.
Right. Yeah. We're a social web app
user-generated
product. So.
Yeah.
It's a pretty different experience.
Right. Of course, it'd be great if you had a gadget blog to go along with that.
The world has enough gadget blogs.
All right. All right. I don't know. It's the kind of thing we all gossip about, but it is an interesting shift after this big move with the HuffPo and what AOL's doing. It looks a little shaky for AOL to see two of the biggest stars of their blog empire.
But all these sites have turnover. How many editors have has Gizmodo gone through?
All right.
It's natural that it's a very high intensity job being an editor of a top blog, whether it's a tech blog or a non-tech blog. It can be a pretty hard job, and people burn out. That's pretty natural.
Yeah, Leo,
that's
people
probably,
burn out.
Yeah, people burn out. I'm tired. I'm out of here.
Like the name lately.
Not everyone has
Leo
Leo stamina.
Right, I burned them out.
No, you
I
didn't burn
tired
them
them.
out,
I
but
tired
you know
them
they're more in the. He's more in the public eye than I think he used to be. Now that he's
Well,
been on your show quite a lot.
A lot of credit goes to the Engadget podcast, which is a great podcast.
That's true.
they've done a good job.
No, I'm not diminishing that by any means. That he does amazing there, but I
Yeah.
think all of that together is kind of putting them more in the public eye than when before they just left and it was no big deal. Well,
I don't know.
not
I
a
think
big
when
deal,
Ryan
but,
and Peter
the
left,
turnover
people
happened.
knew that they left. That was a big story when they left, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, it got covered, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but we didn't leave because we hated AOL. You know,
You just
I mean,
moved.
AOL's
It's
an
time to
investor in our
move.
new company.
Yeah, it's time to move on. That's all.
So
Yeah.
we left on really good terms.
Gina, when you left Lifehacker, was it like a sigh of relief? Like, oh God.
It's a tough job, just like these guys say, and you get to a point where you're just like, I love this job and I love this site, but I just need to move on and do a different thing and have a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
It really is a grind, and
All
I
right.
imagine I was pretty removed from this, but I mean I think it seems like Engadget kind of maintained their kind of small, scrappy startup, even being within AOL, and things happen, and you just get to a point where you're like, I want to do something new. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the whole story and not this other
I'm
stuff.
so disappointed. All right.
Sorry.
We'll manufacture some dirt.
Moving on. iPad 2, show of hands. How many of you got in line at the pop-up store? One? Well, you
Oh, at the
have
pop-
to.
No, I did not at the pop.
Or anywhere. Where'd you get yours?
I got mine from Apple.
Oh, you got a loaner.
Yeah,
Do you
I
have
was-
to? You're going to send that back, though?
Maybe.
Uh-huh. All right.
They will find you.
I was going to eat crow. I was going to get one before the show.
This
They're
is-
sold out.
This is the man who very famously reboxed his iPad 1, disappointed with it. And he has a Samsung Galaxy Tab.
I love that.
Right here.
Which
It's
is a great
kinda
device.
cute.
Yeah.
Great device.
He was
It's kinda
selling me
cute.
on it.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Horrible.
Maybe I'll get.
Where'd you get the
Back to the dark
case?
side,
Where'd you
yes.
get the case?
Oh, just Best Buy.
So they actually sell cases
It's not a
for it.
magical case. It doesn't.
It's a revolutionary.
Times and
It doesn't collapse
and fly off
space-time.
like a Harry Potter bird. No, it doesn't.
Lisa Bettany, you have one
I go.
with a magical revolutionary case. You almost have to buy that. It's kind of like I think it's Steve Jobs' retirement plan, like the $29 profit in that case.
Also, it's not a case. It's just a
It's
cover.
not even a case.
It's just a cover. The
This
back is
thing is
fully.
They don't call it a
amazing,
case.
though.
They call it a smart cover.
They do. Also, he's doing
So-
this information.
It's on when you open it.
Leo, do the Senior Wednesdays. I love it when you do the Senior
Okay,
Wednesdays.
so hey, Baba Boy, Saturday, Saturday. It talks to you when you turn it on. You know, BlackBerry did that 20 years ago. I mean, it's been around for some time, hasn't it? I mean, it's
But
not.
it's different when Apple does it.
It's
Leo.
different when
It's
Apple
different
does it.
when Apple does
It's
it.
different
Magical.
when Apple. Pay no attention to those droids. Well, all right. So you didn't get one, Baratunde?
Nah.
They're
Okay.
sold out, Leo.
I have a first one. I'm gonna hold that until something else.
You know, I was told by a very reliable source, a person standing next to the Apple store, that they had. Well, I believed her.
Someone close to Apple
Someone close
is
to
how the
Apple.
story will read
Standing
when
right
Leo
there.
publishes it on the new blog run by Topolosophy.
She was standing right next to the store.
Yeah, no, she's
she
very
said there are only 2 stores with this many iPad 2s. The Fifth Avenue store and the pop-up store in South by. And, you know, there was still a line this morning, and every other store is sold out, so I believe that.
Mid-morning, the last thing they had was white 64 gig Wi-Fi only.
Who would buy that?
$6.99. I think they sold out.
Somebody.
All
They
the
sold
Apple
it.
guys were standing outside with their hands in their pockets when I came by. Now.
Just
Now, what happens
Full
to
of
a
bills?
pop-up store when it sells all its stock? Does it deflate?
Well, you can still go in and touch it
Isn't that funny?
and wonder at it.
and they'll take your order, I'm sure, right?
2 to 3 weeks now on the Apple
3 to
website.
4.
3 to 4?
Yeah, they just
it's
raised
going
it.
up
Is it 3 to
every
4 already?
couple of
Yeah.
hours.
I know, but I'm really excited about it. I mean, obviously having a camera in there for me is.
Well, you're a photographer, but come on,
Yeah.
it's a crappy camera.
It's a real
It's a crappy
bad
camera, but it's there. You know, it's the first step towards something bigger.
Come on now, you're walking down the street. Something interesting happens. You're going to pull out your iPhone, you're going to pull out your camera, or you're going to pull out your iPad.
You know, this thing is too big. The Galaxy Tab over there is way easier to pull out and deal with.
Jeff, have
And
you
it-
ever
and it's
taken-
great
Bye.
video.
Have you ever taken any pictures with that, Jeff?
Yeah. I have no talent, so they're all
I was
crappy.
surprised. Apple did not put a great camera in this.
It seemed like they intentionally
camera's
put a
not
bad
terrible.
one. It's bad.
So bad.
Why
bad
did they
camera.
put such a crappy camera in there?
Because
they
they
can
could.
sell you a new one next year.
Because they knew you'd buy it.
Why does Apple do anything?
Oh, it's a profit deal.
They could get away. I mean, they could get away with putting a crappy camera in there.
Who's gonna stop
What are you
them?
gonna do? Not buy one?
It does feel like Apple didn't go as far as they could in this. That they just went a little bit improved, so that there's a little room to. It's like me crowd surfing. you hold back just a little bit so that you have something for next year. Is that what happened?
Well, I actually
nice
think that
picture.
maybe they made the first one a little thicker than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Just so
We'll
they can make the
pad it
second
out.
one. Well, if you actually open up the first one, there is a little bit of extra room in that case.
Whoa, that's a good conspiracy theory.
It's almost as if they planned it from the
I
beginning.
I like it.
Like they've got some kind of strategy in mind to take your money repeatedly.
Here's what I've been saying. I've been saying if you have an iPad 1, feel no need to upgrade unless you, for some reason, you have to have a camera, a crappy camera, or thinness matters
But
so
you have
much.
to understand that a lot of people use these devices, like families use them to FaceTime each other and to use it as, and that's something that, like a camera.
I guess
will
if you
enable.
really wanted to FaceTime.
Yeah, or Skype, that's something that I use all the time.
Well, but you think you'll use it on that?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Can I ask the crowd, how many of you actually do FaceTime, use it?
See, I'm with you, Cali. I don't believe
I use
people
Skype.
do it.
Many.
But I just don't believe people do it. But actually, it's more than I even thought.
I
more
thought
than
one
I thought,
person was
too.
going to raise their hand. I
Say it
used it
again.
once.
How many
to
people
prove I
use
could do it.
not Skype,
Few people.
FaceTime? When you travel.
When you travel.
And you use it instead of Skype? Why instead of Skype? It's easier to talk to your wife because she doesn't have to know how to use Skype. It's on her phone. It's just a phone call.
That's what they do.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what they do.
That's how they get you.
That's what they do.
Repeatedly.
First, it starts with ease of use.
Then what?
Well, bad places. Bad. I've seen the roadmap. It
You're
gets ugly.
dealing Skype before
Year
you know
12, total disaster.
See, I was gonna reasure all the people with iPad 1s that you don't have to feel bad you didn't get one, but I
No.
guess
Nah, I definitely
you
don't feel
should
bad.
feel
There was a
bad.
big aftermarket already
no, don't
on
feel
Resale.
and who's our sponsor?
Hover. Yeah, them. Gazelle.
Gazelle.
Thank you. The audience
Yeah.
knows our sponsors better than I do.
That means it's really working.
That's good news, Leo. That's
Yes, that's
very
very
good
good
news.
They're reminding you of who
All
the sponsor is.
sponsors
You
know
watch.
this. That.
Yeah, you watch
Yeah,
it. I
you
never
do.
watch my own show. It's like $300 or $400,
But
right?
but they're doing a fast market. They did a lot of iPad 1
Right.
sales right off the bat.
Right. And you can get an iPad 1 still in some stores for $100 less if they're still in stock. They're not going to make them anymore. Well, what do the gadget users say? Are they excited about the iPad 2?
I think a lot of them are pretty excited. They have a lot of the same consternation over whether they should buy a new one if they already have one. And we had one guy on the site who started a discussion. He was just sort of like, my iPad's obsolete. And I had to you can still use it. It still works. You don't have to throw it away.
We'll ask Brian
like,
Brushwood because Brian's here. He got a bad one, but there have been some reports that there are some screens that have a yellow backlight kind of thing. Have your users reported that in any great number?
I haven't seen too much on that.
All right.
No.
There's always going to be a little of that.
pretty-
but mine's
pretty bad.
fine.
Yeah, there's definitely you're never gonna get something where it's manufactured, first run,
Everything's
hundreds
perfect.
of thousands of units, and not a single one has an issue.
How many do you think they sold?
How many have they sold?
Yeah.
It's got to be hundreds of thousands. I mean,
I think
Millions.
it's probably for a million.
It's got to be millions.
what's that? A
I
million?
think they probably
They
sold.
sold a million
It's
Verizon
entirely
iPhones
possible.
in weekend one. They got to have sold at least that many.
Yeah.
The lines that I've seen were longer than iPhone 4, and the iPhone 4 lines were the longest
Right.
Apple has ever had.
Exactly.
For a launch.
Well, don't forget
Millions.
where we are.
No, I don't mean here. I
Oh,
mean
okay.
just in general across the country.
The lines are
have
pretty
been-
long in New York too.
Yeah.
I saw some reports that that they expect Apple to get to 1 million within a couple weeks, as opposed to the 28 days that it took last year to get to 1 million sold. And I just find it funny because last year we were all like, it only took you 28 days to
Yeah.
get to 1 million, and now this year we're going to be 28 days.
They have to
Come
feel
on.
like they must have made 1 million of them. They can't have just
Wow.
made a few 100,000.
Well, I think the really interesting thing here is not how many they sold, but how few everybody else is selling, and how these guys are just owning it.
Yeah.
How is
nobody
Zoom doing?
else.
Do we know?
Not doing very well.
Yeah, if they were doing well, they would be talking about how
Right,
well they're doing.
and they're not.
right
They
now.
sold 10. It was great.
They rushed. I have one. They rushed it out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when we were all sitting here at CES and everyone was talking about tablets and how excited everyone was, and then I said, okay, we'll wait for what
Right.
to see what Apple does.
You were right. Well, the Zoom was best of show at CES. Most
Yeah,
people
no,
agree.
that's
You know
what
why?
I'm
Because the
excited about
iPad
it.
2 wasn't there.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's nice, and there's some nice things about Honeycomb. I actually think the browser is really good. I think that the dedicated Gmail app is really nice, and if you use Gmail, I've never been particularly happy using Gmail on the iPad,
No, it's
having to
the
do
best,
it in the
yeah.
browser. But Honeycomb was rushed out. The SDK was just released a few weeks ago. and there's the selection of apps is just not there yet.
What about the Samsung 10.1 they've announced? That's going right after iPad, isn't it?
It'll basically be like the Zoom. It's going to run
another Zoom
Honeycomb as well. Yeah.
You know, the interesting kind of dark horse is the BlackBerry, the Playbook.
I think
I wasn't totally impressed by it.
I think the real dark horse is the HP touchpad.
Yeah, the touchpad.
That one actually looks really good.
So the Playbook is what, a couple months off?
I think it'll be out in a few weeks.
Yeah. A few weeks.
Yeah.
And when does the HP come?
We'll have it at our event tomorrow.
Will you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Tell
giving
us
one
about-
away actually.
Well, actually, we'll have both. We'll have the HP touchpad and
Will you?
the Playbook.
So they're
at the
both
event.
close to release then.
Yeah, they're both. I think they both might come out next month.
Where's your event?
It's at the Pure Volume House Loft or whatever it is.
5th and Trinity tomorrow night.
7 o'clock.
Everybody go.
Open to the public.
Open to the public. If you're in Austin.
Yeah, and if you're in Austin.
Peter and Ryan, I really want to thank you for being here. I know you got to get going, so I appreciate it. Jeff
Thanks.
and Gina, do you have to get going? Can you stick around a little bit longer? Baratunde, can you stick
I
around?
got some more time for you. Lee.
Please, I beg of you. Callie Lewis, I know you have to go too.
I have to go soon. I can stick around for a few minutes.
Geekbeat.tv, yeah, we got to give you a plug. And of course, Lisa, you're not going anywhere because we're going to crowd surf at the end of this event.
That's a terrible idea. I'm going on record. That is a bad
Coming up
idea.
at this
Someone's getting hurt.
Hey, I got to tell you a little bit about GoToMeeting. Our friends from Citrix are here. Is Michael in the house? Michael Guarnieri, is he here? I was sitting somewhere in the back. They are such great people. They've now. There's Michael. There's Michael. I was just going to tell him about GoToMeeting. Works great on the iPad. You got GoToMyPC. You don't have to say anything. Just stand there and look pretty. Yeah, he's got his mouth is full. He's actually eating. This is your ad, dude. You paid for this ad, man. GoToMeeting is. I use it actually. We use it all the time in the office. We don't have to do an ad for it because we know how good it is. We love it. It saves time. It saves money. It saves you stress from business travel. Look, if I had to fly to all my meetings, I would not be here. I'd be flying somewhere right now. Fortunately, GoToMeeting, especially on the iPad, is truly awesome. I can hold meetings online for sales presentations, for product demos, or training sessions, collaborating on documents. It's about any kind of conference call. From my friends at Citrix, I always say your name when you eat something. Just keep biting and yeah. $49 a month, as many meetings as you want, as long as you want, and it does include free voice over internet and telephone teleconferencing. Now here's what you do. You go to gotomeeting.com and use the promo code TWiT, and it's 30 days free, right, Mike? That's right, 30 days free. Gotomeeting.com, promo code TWiT. And I just, one of the things I'm really happy about with our friends at Citrix is they realize that the key to getting an intelligent geek audience to use the product is to let you try it. They're really willing to put their butt on the line and say, all right, we're not going to sell you on anything. Just try it free for 30 days. If you like it, it's yours. You buy it. If not, no hard feelings. That means they believe in their product and they believe in you. That they're not trying to pull one over on you. They believe in you, and they know if you see something you like, that you will buy it. And so we just really thank them for all their support, Michael. We really appreciate it. GoToMeeting.com, offer code TWiT. Now, you were all supposed to leave during that. No, you don't have to go. You can
Sorry,
stay.
Leo.
But you guys, if you want to go, you can go.
How long are we going?
Well, we got more people. Why don't you take off?
All right.
Thank you,
Leo,
Ryan.
thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm throwing you out. Ryan, Peter,
The door. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, guys.
No, that's all right. It's nice to see you, Callie. Thank you so much.
tried to
Callie
be
Lewis,
diplomatic.
Geekbeat.tv. The reason I do that, as cruel and mean as that is we have a whole bunch of other people. We want to rotate them in from time to time. So let's introduce Sarah Lane, who is feeling much better and looks
everybody.
fabulous in black. Wow, do you look elegant. Wow, gorgeous. Tom Merritt from TNT. Tom and Sarah actually are hosts on TNT. It's great to have you. And also Brian Brushwood, who is a native Estonian.
Estonian, yes.
Is that how they say it?
Well, you said Estonian. I don't think I'm from
I
Estonia.
said Estonian too. I was like, really? I didn't know that.
That would be T2T2, fan of the show.
The Estonian Brian Brushwood. Justin is here, right? Justin Robert Young, is he here?
I don't know if he's here in the building. Just Robert Young, you around here? Get on over here if you are.
I'm getting a lot of heat on the Twitter
Well, Brian!
for shunning him last night. I didn't know. I didn't even recognize
Oh,
him.
dude, it was chaos last
I
night. Who could
shunned
follow
him.
anyone last
I
night?
shunned him.
No, you're
well,
off.
I apologize.
Don't worry about it.
Hey, is there any news to talk about, Tom Merritt? What were you talking about on TNT today?
Well, we were talking about Topolsky.
That's a big
leaving
story, but
Engadget.
apparently nothing to say here.
What about
Yeah.
the Twitter
We were talking about the two Twitter decisions. The one about the developers, where the folk they're saying we're changing the API.
Twitter wants control back.
Let's start with that one. Twitter's telling people, don't write third-party applications anymore. We want to own
it's a little strongly worded. They want third-party applications, but not that duplicate anything they already have.
Which is everything.
They're sort of pulling the rug out.
Well, they also don't want anything that confuses.
Well, Brian
the
had a really
experience.
good perspective on this because Brian's got an application that would take advantage of Twitter that he wants to use.
Well, the whole Afterlife.me project, the whole idea of tweeting after you're dead is going to rely very heavily on our ability to access the Twitter API. And if they're all of a sudden... Now, granted, they're not saying that they're going to yank the plug on the type of thing we're doing, but now that they have a history of changing all the rules out of nowhere, it sort of has a chilling effect on my interest on developing a new application, taking advantage of the API.
I don't think they're changing rules, though, right? They're just saying to developers, if you're going to start building a Twitter app, just don't build a client that just does what the standard Twitter client does, which is good advice for the developer and for the
Changing the rules. Better one. What if you do a better job than Twitter or anyone else has done?
Which we've already seen before. So much of Twitter's success has been completely organic. We were talking about during Tech News Today how the @reply was not created by Twitter. It was created by the fans. About the retweet was created by the fans.
But they want developers to innovate in more creative ways than just a
funnel
better client. I feel like we've kind of explored
Twitter made its bones here at South by Southwest in 2007. One of the things that made Twitter was that they had a strong API, and they encouraged people to develop third-party apps for Twitter when they couldn't.
So they're dumping them.
They're pulling up the rope. They're saying...
Full disclosure is I have a nano investment in Bill Gross's Uber Media, and he spooked them, I think, by buying up 20% of Twitter traffic and clients. But there are all kinds of new things you can do with Twitter clients that I want to see done.
Bill Gross owns 20% of all the Twitter clients?
Of all the traffic... Of the traffic through Twitter clients, yes.
What clients is that?
TweetDeck?
He's about to buy TweetDeck. He has Echophone. He has... I should know this, but I forget the others.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think that that's what this is in response to?
Well, that's why they cut off his clients because they were in violation of all that. But he's talking to them. He wants to work with them. I don't speak for him or his company at all. But no reason it can't be a friendly relationship. But that may spook him a little bit. I don't know. But there is innovation to be had even in the clients.
Yes, definitely. Twitter wants developers to do something new that they're not doing. And you can do that.
The opposite. Right? When Facebook brought out its platform, it killed its own apps like Courses, which my son then built. And they said the public's going to do a better job, developers will do a better job than staff will. Now Twitter, which grew through this kind of development, is now turned around. I just think it's
arrogant. Okay, so here's another perspective on it. One, I don't think they've completely turned around. I think they've recognized the benefit. They're trying to manage it. Right?
Yeah.
They got this big beast. They're huge now. People are giving them millions of dollars. They're doing award shows. And from the perspective, so Twitter sells now. They sell promoted accounts. They sell promoted trends. They sell recommendations. Not recommendations and algorithm, but they sell products that someone buys with the expectation they're going to reach a Twitter user.
Mm-hmm.
And until very recently, that only worked on Twitter.com.
Right.
Now it works in the Twitter official mobile app for Android and for iPhone and for iPad. So the addressable audience, if you buy something from Twitter, gets bigger. And if you have some other client out there that's not a part of the Twitter-sanctioned client system, they're not going to see the ad.
Well, this goes to
So
Dave
that's
Weiner's
It's
point.
like having another cable company just sitting off to the side, not carrying the ad.
Well, this goes to Dave Weiner's point that we're stuck with them, and we should create a federated shadow to Twitter.
I agree.
Because we are. They got us right here.
Yeah,
Well,
because
and
they
they're
don't want you
not-
selling your own.
They're not
network.
cutting off all of the developers. They're saying
No.
the TweetDecks, the Seismics,
the
they
core
can
clients.
keep going.
Yes.
They're grandfathered in. They're just saying, we have enough. And there's starting to be too much confusion.
You know what they're saying?
Let's stop. Well, that's what they're saying.
They're saying if you don't have the dick bar, we don't. You're taking money out of my
But
pocket.
TweetDeck doesn't have to have the dick bar.
Well,
they can,
I think
they
they
can
would
still
love
stick
all those to go away.
What?
I mean, I think really what they wanted to do is, just as you said, Baratunde, if you don't have the promoted tweets, if you don't have the dick bar, if you don't have all the things we make money on, we don't want you to stick around.
That's what supports them. And if you're NBC and you buy a promoted tweet, and 20% of Twitter
Don't
users
see
use
it.
these other clients, then what did you really buy? And you
Right.
need to get a discount.
This is the
because
problem
this
of
number
not having your
goes
business
up and
model
down.
first, right?
That's really interesting.
So
Yes.
that's one. And then the user interface, having a uniform experience, I think they actually do care about that.
Is this going to be the way startups work from now on, where they grow, they scale based on the support of the community, but they don't have a Facebook. Kind of similar situation. They grew because they made certain promises, but then when it came time to make money, they say, well, screw you, we're going to do it our way because we need to make money.
That's the way everything's been. That's the way television's been, radio's been. Anything in its infancy, when there is no market, when there is nobody following, you do whatever you think is going to get you attention and make you money, which includes a lot of things like that we're doing right here on TWiT.
Right.
We play fast and loose with a lot of some of the small things that technically are copyright violations.
Laws.
But it's what, yeah, exactly. But meanwhile, we're watching the entire face of media change.
Hey, stop that.
See, exactly.
Stop that.
But we could do that now because we're young. And when there's a point, when there's a significant amount of money involved, when there's a significant amount of monetary interest, you have to restructure the rules. And I'm not blaming them. Now, I will say that, unfortunately, the Twitter thing seriously has a chilling effect, I think, on developing new content. I understand that they're doing kind of the Apple thing of saying, look, don't duplicate functionality that we already have with our apps. That's essentially what they're doing right here. But what I don't like is the precedent of them having even once changed all the rules right from the beginning.
But Gina, you're okay with it?
I am actually okay with it. They didn't change the
Write
rules.
a Twitter app.
Yes, I wrote a Twitter app. It's not a Twitter client though. It's an app that does other things with Twitter data, which is what Twitter, the company, is trying to encourage. And they're not killing existing third-party apps. There's always going to be the non-official Twitter app that most of the people in this room are probably going to use.
First they came for the Twitter clients.
I
did not care because I did not have a Twitter client.
I'll give you an example. When I got the iPad 2, Andrew Stone, who writes Twitterator, sent me a note saying you got to try it. You can now tweet a video directly from Twitterator. That's a nice feature.
Yeah.
Twitter
Yep.
doesn't have it in their client.
Yep.
Is it okay for him to do that? Because it's not a feature that they already have.
Yeah, I mean, I think
He's
that's
extending
something.
it.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's an extra feature that you'd want. I mean, multiple accounts, that kind of thing. But listen, most people, most Twitter users, mainstream Twitter users, are using their client, their official client, right? But I think the market for third-party apps is for advanced users who want to manage 6 accounts and that kind of thing, and they're not killing those. And Ryan's email to the developer list, it went out late on a Friday. It seemed kind of shady, but the way he worded it was. And when a developer asks, is a good thing to build for Twitter a client app? The answer is no. Right now, I mean, right now, starting to build a Twitter client that just lets you tweet and get tweets is a bad idea.
A year
It's
ago, that
obvious.
Fred Wilson said that himself,
He
right?
did. He did.
I think this is an example of a very young, new way of doing business having its stumbling point, right? It's not that the message is wrong. If you're going to crowdsource and you're going to do this, eventually you're going to mature and you're going to want to consolidate. You're going to want to say, we want retweet to work the same across everything.
Right.
We want less confusion. We want to be able to sell the ads. And there's a way to do that elegantly, and Twitter is just stumbling a bit in getting the message
It comes
out.
off inelegantly. It comes off kind of churlish.
But it's a classic case of channel conflict. Right, and that's what all startups do go through, is you think this is your world, then you suddenly realize, no, that's my world, so I don't want anybody else in that. Look at, Amazon is big enough that it can afford to publish books competing with the publishers who now hate Amazon.
Yeah. Right.
But they can do it.
But they
Twitter
couldn't
is
do it
now
at the
big enough
beginning.
that it can start to say, no, that's ours.
It's the same way people feel about their bands, right? Bands start getting more successful. They start changing the way they do business.
Sellouts.
And it's like, I loved you when you were poor, is basically what people say.
When you were mine.
When you were mine, when no one knew about you, when you were eating ramen, when you smelled like bad things, that's when you were the best. Now that you have a house,
Tim Wu in his book, the Kill Switch, talks about this. He says, the free and open internet isn't going to stay free and open for that exact reason. It was free and open so it could reach critical mass, but these things never stay free and open. He said, just look at history time and time again. Free and open, it's a cycle. Open, closed, open, closed, open, closed. He says the internet's going to be closed.
That's our big issue. It is not a public internet. This is why I keep harping on the idea that we have to have, we, the people of the internet. Sounds nice, doesn't it?
Ooh, a constitution.
We have to have principles so that we can hold companies and governments' feet to the fire to say you're violating those principles. And we aren't doing that. We're just kind of going along, and as Gina taught me, hackers hack around, and it's okay. But then at some point, boom. We're not going to be able to do the things on the internet that we want to do.
Right.
And we're going to have ourselves to blame, too, because we didn't stand up and determine what was right about the internet and fight to keep it that way.
Are you going to secede from the internet?
Right on. Right on.
New internet.
I'm running
New
for president
internet.
this fall.
New internet.
Of the
New
internet?
internet.
No, I think, Baratunde, you said something half joking here. You're going to secede from the internet, but isn't that the solution? Is when the internet
Build a
starts to
new
get
thing.
closed, you secede and you go to a different data communication transfer way of transmitting, and you find a way to get the signal out around.
Well, and this is
Telepathy
actually
next.
Your
That's
hacker
still
with.
hack think. Yeah, that's still
Yeah.
hack think.
This is one of
Still
those
hard to
things
do.
where, for much as Baratunde and I go back and forth, obviously with you from more left-leaning perspective and me from a libertarian perspective, it's like I want the greatest amount of freedom for the greatest amount of people. And I get in arguments with very intelligent people, for example, my friend Andrew Main, who's just not bothered by a bunch of the encroaching government control of things because he says technology will advance faster than government regulation will advance. So you will continue to get increased freedom, even though technically the letter of the law is getting more and more red tape as far as you can see.
And we don't know what the internet is yet. Pardon me for this, but in Gutenberg years, it's 1465. You know, it's 15 years after the printing press is invented.
And
Who
just
would have
after
thought?
porn was printed.
Yes.
Oh, those woodcuts.
That's right.
I think it's important to remember, though, that Twitter is not the internet. It's a company
Right.
that has
right.
data that it uses, that it sells
is
and
it-
tries to make money on.
is it
It's not
Somebody
the
said
internet.
Facebook is the internet.
Right,
that makes
Facebook is
comment
the internet,
from
but
the
Twitter is not
Well,
the
You
internet.
know,
Verizon.
Sarah Lane.
The Facebook, we mentioned Facebook earlier, is that, you know, back in the day, Facebook got a lot of popularity in part because of the apps that people were making on the platform, and then they changed the rules and upset people. Facebook also has a history of buying companies for the talent of companies that do good things that they want to incorporate into their system. I see Twitter doing the same thing. Twitter's now in the business to make money. People have been asking for years, how's Twitter going to make money? Well, they've shown clearly that they're intending to make money. They don't want people competing with them that are going to take any money away from them. And I see them buying companies and talent that can help further their platform in a similar way.
Done.
Is it time to create a public Twitter?
Yes.
An open source Twitter.
Well, I mean,
A federated
An
Twitter.
open source federated Twitter where you're
yes.
not
Evan
bound.
Dave
Pedromo.
Weiner's been screaming it.
but Evan already did it. He did Identica. Didn't take off.
Right.
How do you make it take off? What do you do? What do you make a public Twitter do that's different?
You have to get the hip people to use it.
I mean, that's the thing is if there's one environment where people will very quickly switch to a better alternative, it's on the internet. We've been trained. I mean, how many generations of social media? I mean,
Except that the network effect is really critical. So the internet also supports monopolies because if all your friends are on AIM or all your friends are on Facebook or all your friends are on Twitter, it's very hard. Or all your searches are on Google, it's very hard to move. So there is a tendency to monopoly.
no,
as
that's
well.
a good point because right now you can use if you got friends on MSN, on AOL, and all your different instant messenger clients, you can use Trillion that does all of them. But if Twitter is
Or
saying
AIM.
no more duplicating our functionality, then we have a problem.
Well, and one
what
day's
you're trying to do is
Facebook is the
exploit
next day's
Twitter.
MySpace.
Sorry, Tom?
One day's Facebook is the next day's MySpace.
Why don't we just
Absolutely.
all go back to MySpace? That would
I don't
solve
think
it.
so. Doesn't it happen that at some point you get so big when you have 650 million users? Can somebody
no-
take Facebook's place? I don't think so.
I don't
think you
know.
have a
No, I
precedent
think
for that.
Baratunde is onto something. I say that MySpace are the bell bottoms of the internet, and I say we all go back to MySpace now.
Don't call it a comeback. It's been here for years.
Screw that,
I
Friendster.
had a guy who emailed me and he blogged that he wants to buy MySpace and turn it into condos. And you know, it's not insane. There was a talk here at South by about the idea that we don't have the right analogy yet. Mark Davis from Microsoft was saying we need a property analogy. We don't own any of the internet. Right? We don't own anything on the internet. We don't own our data. We don't own our servers. Well, you do. We don't own our pipes. We don't own anything on the internet.
Yeah.
And so, how do we get some piece of the internet that we own? And
We
you know,
take it back.
What do we
Brute
take?
force.
I just want a pitchfork.
But the problem is convincing mainstream users to care about things like federation and hosting their own.
Nobody
I mean, who's going to switch to
Nobody
Identica
does.
and Diaspora
Yeah.
because
Nobody
they feel so
does.
strongly?
Not
I mean,
yet.
they're
People are
just-
gonna
Not yet,
switch-
but however,
you could,
those
Gina,
same
couldn't
analogies.
you do something where you still exploit Twitter, right? I can still
yes, use Twitter to
go to
publish
Twitter,
out.
come back to Twitter, but then over here there's a nicer world where in addition I can see the videos and I can add this and I can add more than 140 characters and I can do more.
Yeah.
And you'll truncate it for Twitter. You still cooperate with Twitter.
Right.
You still exploit its API still, but you build a parallel universe.
But how
and if
many
I live in the parallel universe, I'm in both places.
And you
How
have to
many
do-
companies have tried and failed to do that with Jaiku and Plurk and Pounce? I mean, I can name. There's 100 companies that have died on the shoals of Twitter. It's very hard.
Twitter's very good at what they do, and they were very good at leveraging developers into helping them figure out
that's
the
what's
stuff they didn't
frustrating.
know.
That's the hard part,
So
yeah.
this
And now
may be
it's-
the weak chink. If developers get upset enough,
Right.
they may start to leave some of those things open that they would have discovered for Twitter, and a competitor could move in and exploit
And I would
those.
also
Gina, that's your
remind
next
you,
job.
this idea, we'd have no, I don't think, I'm not a complete student of history, but I don't think we have any historical analogy for something like this, except for the fact that everything eventually dies. Right? So the idea that Twitter is going to be Twitter and dominating this
I'll
thing
tell you what
forever,
this-
either something else will come along that is different and better than, and we'll look back at Twitter and be like, what was that weird thing we did for 4 years? And then we moved on to the next one.
I'll tell you what this makes me think of. It's almost as though there's an internet environmentalism where there's two different attitudes. You can either have the attitude of like, we need to preserve and curate our Twitter so that it's like the way we like it. We need to be good stewards of our Twitter because Twitter's the way it should be. And then there's another group that's like, hey man, internet change all the time. Remember freaking MySpace? Whatever. Let's bulldoze this business.
Remember Pointcast networks?
Yes.
I mean, who's dominating that space now? It doesn't exist, you know?
All right.
Apple.
You said there were 2 announcements from Twitter. Does that cover both of them?
Well, yeah, the other one was the justice in the case about handing over information ruled that because there was no content in the information the government was asking Twitter to hand over, that they had no standing to challenge it. Because when I go onto Twitter and I post and I have a session time, I have no expectation of privacy, and therefore the government doesn't need a warrant.
Right.
They need, I can't remember the number, but they only need that lesser level of standing to request that information.
This is the wiretap
WikiLeaks.
versus pen register issue. I've talked about this before. In 2007, there were 2,000 wiretaps because you have to there's a high standard. You have to get a court to approve a wiretap. You can't do a fishing expedition. You have to say, this is what we're looking for. But you can get a pen register because there's no, quote, content. A pen register means subject line to from, maybe not subject line. There's a debate there. It means your GPS coordinates from your cell phone carrier. That's not content. And as a result, in 2007, when there were 2,000 wiretap requests, there were 8 million pen register requests. All the wireless carriers have set up portals, paid portals for law enforcement. You pay $1 or $2, and I can say, where was Tom Merritt the other night? And it's free, and there's no warrant, there's no supervision, there's no oversight.
And there's no transparency to Tom.
None at all.
Right.
In fact, there is.
Where were you the other night, Tom?
There is technical transparency because the Department of Justice, by law, is supposed to report the number of pen registers every single year. They haven't done it in 5 years.
Wow.
They just ignored the law. But so we don't even know how many there are. There are at least, Sprint said there were 8 million in 2007, one carrier. So this is something going on all the time, and that's a very interesting precedent to say there's no content in your tweet.
Yeah, we're saying this is a pen register request. Since we're not asking for what was in the post, we just want to know when it was sent, to whom it was sent, who's in the contact list. We can get all the information we need out of that. We don't need to know what they
So
sent.
is a like content? Right? Is
I
a
guess
like
not.
function or is
No.
it content?
It is, but it is
Should be.
information.
But it is information. It should be our actions, our content. But that's not the way the government's seeing it because as always they're
I
behind.
think retweet was in the list of things they asked for that were granted because
No kidding.
Just pushing the retweet button.
Although I got to say,
because
when you
it's where you were at the time that you pushed
but
that
come
button.
on, when you're tweeting, it's in public. I mean, nobody. I mean, that's
Well, that's the other thing is they can go then take all the
Just look
information
at
and
Twitter.
figure out what was in the post
Who's
because
on
the posts
Twitter?
are there in public.
They
I
can
mean,
use
come
your
on.
client.
Right.
Well,
Does that
very
apply to
You're not a
DMs
practice
as
user,
well?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, they could find out the DMs were sent and to whom they were
Time
sent, but
and-
not what was in the direct message.
And that's the part that bugs me the most because DMs, by their very nature, are meant to be secret. They're meant to be private
Well-
conversation between the two people.
You did see that the API leaks the DM content. Did you see that?
Oh no, I did not.
Yeah, that was another.
That's not intentional.
You probably knew that, Gina Trapani. It's
I
in the
actually
API.
didn't. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Does it? It
Apparently, there's a leak in DM content.
You could see her dialing back like, "What did I DM recently?"
Yes.
Damn, I should be crawling that.
We're going to take a break. Sarah Lane, Tom Merritt, Jeff Jarvis. I almost called him Jake. You're looking younger all the time. Jeff Jarvis, Gina Trapani, Baratunde, Thurston. I'm doing good at this, man. This is
You
great.
are.
Brian Brushwood and Lisa Bettany are on our panel. If you want to do a rotate, Eileen, let's do that. Anybody who is tired of this,
Switch
can
everyone
leave.
and really mess you up.
We'll really
Just play some music while we walk around.
I do want to mention, stay here, Brian Brushwood, because I want to talk about Audible.com.
Oh,
And
my gosh.
I know. Anybody else here listen to Audible? Come on, Barry,
yeah.
you've
on
got to.
Audible.
Oh,
I love it.
Everybody does.
Definitely.
We love Audible.com. How many of you listen to Audible.com? All right. So the other half of the audience, we got to get you. We just turn to your neighbor and say, please listen to Audible.com. You just got to take a look at some of the amazing books on Audible.com. You got me listening to the Stephen King.
How far in are you?
I'm only on The Wizard and Tower.
Wizard and Glass,
series
yeah.
is one of the greatest epic
man.
journeys ever
Good
taken.
news. Stephen King says New Dark Tower 2012.
That's right.
And it takes place between
buy that
book
book.
4
I
and
gotta
book
get my time
5.
machine.
Oh man, I
So
hate it
soon-
when he does that.
Yeah, it's going to go back and fill in a
Backwards.
gap.
Okay, fill in a gap. There was a gap.
Yeah.
All right.
Between book. Well, you haven't got there because you haven't got to book
Yeah,
5.
you haven't got there. At the end of book 4, there's a time
No,
differential.
see-
Well, no, I'm just saying. Some books flow from one book right into the next. Some books take a break. This is a break
Speaking
book.
of taking a break, I'm actually gonna
Get outta here,
bounce out.
Baratunde.
Baratunde Thurston from The Onion.
Can I do a quick promotion? I've got my own chocolate bars here.
What?
Can we get a tight shot on Chocolatunde bars?
Oh, you gotta get out of town.
Chocolatunde bars.
right.
It looks like I got jujubes buried in
They
there.
are cranberries. And
You're
what happened
crunchy,
with the company,
Baratunde.
I met this woman from the company last year,
There we
Chalkly.com, and they will make custom
Custom
chocolate bars for
chocolate.
you. So she delivered these to me when I arrived.
Are you going to
This
let
is
us?
for you.
Oh, I was just going to say.
Share it
all
with the
right.
panel. Share it with the panel. Thank you all.
Thank
Love
you,
the show.
Baratunde. Love you.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
soon. We just think the world of Baratunde Thurston. He's so great, so great. And now he has his own chocolate. When's the book coming out? When's the book coming out?
Next year.
How to Be Black, February
Can't wait.
2012. You think there's an irony that he's giving out chocolate bars? All right, I'm going to pass this around. Audible.com here. You start it, young lady. All women love chocolate, right? Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Boys too.
Baratunde chocolate. Give it to me.
So Audible will give you 2 free audiobooks to try out, 2 credits a month with the Platinum plan. This is nice because I tell you, one of the things that happens with Audible, as you already hear, is that you talk to somebody who's an Audible fan, he says, oh, you got to listen to this, and you got to listen to this, and pretty soon you got to list about as long as your arm of books you got to listen to.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where it's infectious. Each little piece of the puzzle, once you get somebody else who's infected with the Audible virus, I mean, it's just, and what's great is it's self-building because it's like something that you're super passionate about. You will just bring it up, and instantly it'll remind somebody, oh, but you got to read this other book in order to understand the context of the first book as well.
So what are you reading right now?
I just finished
Thank you,
what
Economy.
might be the goofiest post-apocalyptic book I've ever read.
What's that?
The Hunger Games. Anyone else read the Hunger Games?
Oh, no. All right, good.
One person
Write
apparently
this
really
down.
likes
Eileen's read
it.
it. I'll write this down.
It is definitely filled with woman porn. By which I mean, it's post-apocalyptic about this girl who goes to a very rich society, and half the passages are about how awesome the clothes are and how great the food is. But beyond that, I've now moved on to Guns, Germs, and Steel. So that's like
an
a
awesome
giant
book.
flip of
Yeah,
the
Jared
switch.
Diamond. That's a great book. I think the guy
the book
sitting
you
next to
should
you has
be
a book or
reading.
two on Audible.com,
you have
as I
any books?
remember.
Why don't you read? Am I on?
Turn on his microphone. Gary's Vaynerchuk is
You don't
here.
need a microphone, Gary.
I could just go.
Just
I
shout.
can go freestyle.
But is
There
it
you
your
go.
book on Audible.com? I think it is.
No, I like to do the audiobook months after the book comes out so I can update it. You know, when you're talking about trends. By
Well, that's
the
a good
time-
idea.
So the audiobook comes out in June.
Are they trying to get you to read it? You got to read it.
I will be reading
Oh, you
it.
have
Crush
to.
it.
You have to. I want to plug the book because I haven't had a chance to blog it yet. But I got the book. Gary sent it to me. It is really, really good. The great thing is that it's practical advice for businesses, real stories from businesses, and the best of all is it's the real Gary's voice. You really come out. It's
That's
a
why
really
he
good
has
book.
to
Well,
read
and that's
it,
one of
right?
the things when it's like one thing, Gary. I think anyone will agree that one thing Gary is not lacking in is passion, and that definitely comes across when you read.
And good looks.
Well, okay, that's up for debate.
The thank you
He
economy.
does look younger than I've ever seen him.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. What is it?
You look fantastic. Oh, he shaved. Well, all right, there you
If it
go.
were that easy, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Audible.com. I want you to go to audible.com/twit2. Sign up for the Platinum account. You get 2 books. We've already given you a couple that you might want to think about. Currently, I'm reading a great biography by David Bianculli, the TV reviewer for Fresh Air. It's on the story of the Smothers Brothers, which is an amazing story of 2 guys who really broke all the broke all the rules in media. Fascinating book. But go to audible.com, pick out 2 books. When you subscribe to the Platinum account, you also get, as with the other plans, a free subscription to the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times Daily Audio Show. You got tons of stuff to listen to.
Can I just say that there's a problem out there with
What's that?
Audible?
What's
People are in denial. People have a problem. And what I mean by that is a lot of people just buy individual books. They're like, oh, I'm not one of those.
Subscribe. You gotta
I'm not one of
subscribe.
those subscribing
Yeah,
types.
no.
I'll just get this one book. And then a few
Yeah.
weeks later, oh, well, I'll just get this other book. And it's like at some point you got to look back. You got to self-assess. You got to realize You were always a subscriber. You just need to admit it and come out of the closet, subscribe, make it official.
You are always a subscriber.
That's what I'm saying.
Audible.com/TWiT2. Offer good in the U.S. and Canada, but Audible's worldwide, so check it out. Hey, thank you. We got a new panelist here, Gary Vaynerchuk. It's so great to see you. Wine Library TV. Now, last year you were doing some pouring. In fact, I ran into you last year pouring wine. Are you going to do that, or did you already do it?
No, I'm throwing my secret wine party tonight. So
we need to talk about the definition of secrets.
20 cases of wine are with me. We're looking for a home. Usually every year I just go to a bar that has nobody in it, and I ask them very politely, would you like a lot of people here right now?
That's awesome.
And so tonight around midnight I will tweet out a location. And then since it's 2011, I'll go on Beluga, GroupMe, Fast Society, Yobongo, and every other platform to tell everybody where it is. So I hope you don't get too blitzed tonight. Don't get too fat. Don't get too tired. Make sure you're up and about. I've got an enormous amount of good wine with me tonight.
Oh, that's exciting. And what is the Twitter handle in case somebody is foolish enough not to be already following Gary Vaynerchuk?
As somebody who prides himself in understanding brand, it's actually the worst move of my career because I have 2 silent E's in my Twitter handle. It's Gary V, GaryVee. But
You're regretting that now, aren't you, babe?
No, I don't regret anything, Leo.
I regret nothing.
Nothing.
He's
But,
the Edith Piaf of wine. So that's great. We'll look for that.
It's good to see everybody
Actually,
on the panel.
that's my
Yeah,
next
great.
topic. We are at South by Southwest in 2007. Twitter made its bones here. It really became a big thing because everybody was using it. I think it was 2008 that Foursquare took off.
9.
Was it 9? Last year, Gowalla, arguably. But this year, you just started a list and you didn't even finish it. There are 20 competitors here. Is it possible to rise above the noise at South by Southwest 2011?
Can you ask the crowd? Let's list
What
them
are
off
you
and see
using?
what people are using.
Just
so, like,
say one thing. Say the one you're using.
No, do this. How about this? By clap, who's using GroupMe?
We don't have time to go
You
through
use
them one by
GroupMe,
one.
give me the clap.
Beluga,
3 people.
Fast Society,
I like Fast Society. I think that's the coolest of the
you and
bunch.
one other person.
Who are you
love
using
it.
Fast Society with?
Nobody.
See?
It's me and that person out there. I love it.
There are a
And yet
bunch of
it's so
really
fun.
great services that are new this year, and this is the perfect place to use us all as guinea pigs. But they all have this, they're overlapping in features.
There's no critical
There
mass
is
at
no
all.
one service that's going to rise and be the winner because they're all doing the same thing.
I thought actually Beluga had the least interesting features, and yet that's the one we're using. And I hear a lot of people using Beluga. That seems to be, if you're going to pick one equal among others, it's that. But
Well,
it's not that strong.
But we don't really have a good reason.
No.
We're just
Well,
using
you're
it. But we
actually
could
the
use
reason.
GroupMe the same way.
You picked it.
I picked it. But that was because it was the first. It was the first one that I was introduced to.
And it worked on Android and iOS. That was
That
another
too.
reason because
That's
GroupMe only worked on,
That's what was
on
wrong
iOS.
about Fast Society is that it didn't work on Android.
Yeah, that's iOS
Yeah.
only.
I like that one myself.
GroupMe seems to be really popular.
How many of you use Groupon? Just curious.
Groupon, the coupon. Nobody.
Why is it so big? I don't get it.
Who?
Because people like coupons.
But they're not
But they don't use it. Living Social. Anybody use Living Social?
Living Social.
You know what? That's bigger than Groupon.
How many use the internet? That was making sure here.
Yeah, that was a good control group. Yeah, well done.
Scientific method.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the end of the world. There's certainly bigger stories. There seems to be an earthquake in Japan and things. But I just find it. And by the way, I've gotten a number of tweets from people saying, "Isn't it seem a little self-indulgent to gather in Austin and celebrate the culture of the World Wide Web when horrors are happening overseas in Japan?" And when you walk by that CNN bus, CNN has a bus in the grill at CNN, and all that's on their monitors is the tsunami. Is the
I
earthquake.
just got a retweeted. Alan Rusbridger, the editor of The Guardian, who's coming in tomorrow, we hope, just tweeted a video that is an amateur video that is unbelievable of the tsunami coming in one town.
I feel terrible
Just
even
incredible.
talking about tech news when really there's no question that's the only
But
story
there's
of
a
the
story
week.
here to talk about too. That this is what I did this morning on CNN. Is that with every big story, something comes of age supposedly, right? But unlike Haiti, this is a highly connected country where they stayed connected, and a few things happened. One, I saw people on TV who said that as soon as it happened, people were immediately on this because this is the way to tell the world what's
Right.
going on. Get friends,
Not
get
just the world,
information.
your friends. You couldn't make a phone call.
Exactly.
You could text
They were
them.
on data.
Yeah.
And we also see that everyone has a TV camera.
Sure.
Right? So we've seen
Lots
incredible
of video.
documentation of this event.
Lots of video.
And a sense of it we never had. Next, the speed. Doc Searles wrote a great post that basically, I'll paraphrase him, that Twitter is to cable news as cable news was to TV.
Absolutely.
Cable news is now stale.
Absolutely.
It's stale as hell. They keep. I get into the loop
Absolutely.
fatigue. The same 12-hour-old video. You don't know how old it is.
Sure.
How current it is. The other thing is, I think I watch people on BBC being extremely. I thought of TWiT. I watched this guy on this BBC show called World Have Your Say, where the guys are just chatting the way we do.
Right.
It's changed. I'm on TV now. I'm going to be stiff and inhuman. No. You are, as you said, the future of TV, and you see that now. People are on there with their headsets, and they're telling this is what happened, and that happened, and it's very human. We see a new TV. So I think in the Japan story, we see technology. No, it didn't cause it. We'll go to that Twitter argument about Iran and Egypt. There were earthquakes before that, but we see a huge impact of these connection tools in how we learn about how people are using it. All kinds of great things.
Let me ask you a question. How many of you here in the audience first heard about what happened in Japan on the internet, on Twitter? How many of you first heard about it on TV or the radio? So still some people.
Oh, yeah.
It's clearly going. I mean, it was 11 o'clock at night, California time, and I saw all of a sudden a huge amount of traffic on Twitter. I got a link to Al Jazeera so I could watch it live. I got a link to NHK World so I could watch it live. I was starting to see videos. My wife ran into the bedroom to turn on CNN. I stayed on my computer.
I was talking about that on Tech News Today, how I saw an All Things D post about it that when I was going through my RSS feeds, and that led me to immediately launch Al Jazeera English to see what was happening in real time and start looking at Twitter to find out if there's anything I missed. I never even thought about turning on the television because I didn't need to.
That Al Jazeera English is, though you can't get it on TV, is becoming not just Middle Eastern brand of news, but now for Japan you went to it.
And I was sort of trained by the recent Middle East stuff to go that's my regular news.
Yeah, exactly. What happened?
Out of habit, I had learned about the earthquake and the impending tsunami on Twitter, and I turned on CNN because I wanted to see moving pictures. And after about half an hour, I realized I just want the CNN anchors to shut up because they're getting the information from Twitter and Al Jazeera and other sources online exactly how all of my friends on my Twitter stream are. And I don't need their discussion.
Well, and so to take your analogy a bit farther, it is true that Twitter is to cable news as cable news was to network news, but that is not just referring to the timeliness of the reports. It also, I think, speaks to the misinformation. When that was one of the things people dogged cable news about, is because it was up to the minute. They're like, we're getting reports that this, and then they have to go back later and take backseas. Same thing happens to a much bigger degree on Twitter. You get a bunch of disinformation.
But we expect that somewhat. And again, I plugged on Twig. I'm going to mention it here. I talk so fast, I got tons of tweets asking me who the hell I said. Andy Carvin, A-C-A-R-V-I-N, from NPR. Did incredible work with Tunisia and Egypt, and then he was finally kind of relaxing a little bit because Libya was quiet for a day, and then boom, he wakes up and here's the earthquake, and he 0 to 60 in half an hour. He's been reporting spectacularly. He's here in South
He's here in town.
But that's what's
Twitter.
interesting.
On Twitter.
This is a new
curating
form
Twitter
of reporting, which is to use Twitter to aggregate, to curate, to report. It's unbelievable.
And he adds journalistic value. He'll say he'll find out people who were there because I proposed something this week in my blog. The hashtag doesn't work for these kinds of events. I proposed a new convention of a witness tag that you have, let's say, an exclamation point, Japanese quake versus hashtag Japanese quake. The hashtag is for discussion. The exclamation point is for witnesses, so you know they're there.
I love it.
And how the hell it happens, I don't know. But the point is that you want to separate it out because as soon as it happened, it gets overloaded with people who, with all good intention, are discussing it like we all are and retweeting
It's useless.
Just to add
in a
the
situation
exclamation
like
point at the end. So you still have a hashtag, so it still works with Twitter.
This is cool. Yeah, but then you don't know if somebody's just really excited about
exactly.
like, hashtag outrageous.
I'm excited.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Oh, so that's a modifier on the hashtag.
It's a modifier because the hashtag has to continue to work. Or you're
both do. But I think
Hashbang on Twitter.
Hashbang.
Don't get me started.
That's it.
Andy adds value here because he also questions people. He says, I don't know if this is true. He has caveats. He does what a new kind of journalist does, and it never ends in a story. It's a constant flow of news.
And I notice he reaches out for confirmation. He'll say, hey, I'm hearing this. Anybody there can
Do you
tell
have a
me.
picture of it? Can you go take a picture of it? What's going on?
You know what's interesting? I mean, he's an NPR reporter.
Yes.
This has nothing to do really with NPR. He has become a journalistic organ on his own.
Absolutely.
I talked to his boss yesterday, Kinsey Wilson, who's in charge of digital at NPR. He's still there. There's been a huge change in otherwise. And he said that Andy is peppering the newsroom so much with news, they can't handle his intake.
Andy needs to leave NPR and do his own thing. I mean,
no, I disagree.
Why?
Look, because you work within the structure that exists right now. We are getting
Yeah, they love
closer
him.
to. We've read so many science fiction stories
somebody
about.
has to pay him, right? He's not going to make any money on
We're
Twitter.
working on that. We're working on that.
Well, and we've read so many science fiction stories about people who, in the future, you follow a person and their experiences
Right.
live, minute by minute, and we're getting closer to that thanks to Twitter. But for right now, you're working within the established structure, so you shouldn't quit. I mean, not everybody needs to follow the Laporte method of creating your
Screw
own
the
network.
established
That's what
structure.
I'm saying.
The hell
Not
with
everyone
it.
needs to be so punk rock.
Brian also makes a good point. We don't need any more competitors.
That's true. Thank you.
Well, I just think it's amazing that one person can do such a good job of that, and he's not using any resources that aren't available to anybody who's online.
No, part
right?
of what I'm looking at is how can my university bring some development talent, we're talking soon, about how to give him tools to improve what he does. How can we examine what he's learned about who's connected with whom and how he learned to find the good person who's really there because so-and-so knows it. All these things. And there's a new kind of journalism there that I want to spread out elsewhere. Because we think in journalism that the atomic unit is the article. Well, it's not necessarily. It's not necessarily a story we tell.
Right.
It's adding value to the flow we see.
There's a certain laziness to being a source-only reporter, too, that can creep in, where you say, all I have to do is state these 5 facts, and I have a story. And you really don't. You haven't done anything that helps anyone. What Andy's doing is much more difficult, which is I have to think and curate and weigh and decide that's a good source. I think that's true. I'm going to elevate that.
And listen.
It's the kind of thing we do on
and
Twit
most
and Tech
importantly,
News
it's
today.
living and breathing. I mean, that's the way it is now in 2011. I mean, it's a living and breathing play. It's not their morning edition, the middle. There's no, morning, afternoon, and night, right? I mean, that's just not how we
It's
live.
the instantaneous news cycle. We've talked
that's just
about
what
that.
it is.
It's iterative. It goes on.
Can ThinkUp be used in a real-time fashion, perhaps?
Yeah, we're just hooking into the real-time
Because
stream right now.
you're
so we
already
should be able
doing
to do
that kind of analysis after the fact.
Yeah, after the fact, but
you
it
could
needs to
become
be real time.
a
And
real-time
Twitter's API
journalist.
provides that. We're just
That'll
pulling
be
that
hot.
in,
I'm
plugging it in
drooling
now.
thinking
Yeah.
of that.
I think my favorite story about Twitter and the earthquake was I forget where this person was located, but someone in the U.S. heard about the earthquake on Twitter, called their family in Japan before just as it was starting to happen, before the phone lines went down, and got to have this phone conversation with them before they became unable to be reached. While it was happening, literally 5 minutes into it. That was a great story.
Is Twitter the best medium for this kind of communication? Why he uses Twitter, but would a live blog, be a better place for him to do that?
Well, video is too. I talked today. The Guardian had a session today, and I was thinking about this. There's a lot of talk. The Knight Foundation just gave $1 million to the Texas Tribune right here in Austin and Bay Citizen in San Francisco to redo a CMS. And the problem is, news keeps on thinking internally. They're reorganized internally. We ought to be thinking externally and give a dashboard to the public. Here's what we know, here's what we don't know, what do you want us to do, and so on and so forth. So I think there are new tools to be invented here if we rethink news enough.
Yeah, forget
Twitter also works really well. It's like you're hanging out at Momo's, your favorite bar, and someone says, "Hey, this happened," and you go, "Hey, thanks."
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the bar across the street to find out what that smart person has to say.
Good point.
Well, one
Twitter
more thing.
aggregates a lot of these. Sorry, Lisa.
With Haiti, we saw a massive outpouring of support and aid for Haiti. I'm wondering if we're seeing the same thing for Japan.
I think we are, actually. I think that there's a lot of internet organization.
Apple has actually put a thing up now that you can donate directly to Japanese aid through the iTunes store. They're not taking a cut out of it. They're just passing it through.
They don't get 30 points.
Why don't they get
30 points?
30%?
30 points?
What's wrong with that?
They're making an exception to the
what's
rule.
wrong
I
with
know.
profit? I
Sony's
mean,
over there
come
going,
on.
"Hey, wait a minute."
I mean, from my standpoint, Japan and New Zealand and Haiti, I mean, this thesis has, this ship has sailed a long time ago. We can talk about
It's
the
obvious.
variables,
Yeah.
right? We can talk about the individual story about the phone call, but this story is going to be repeated over and over.
Yes.
I mean, this ship has sailed. This is the way it is now. Every time there's a situation that's going to look like this, we'll all tell the individual stories about them, but the top-line thesis of the way the world reacts and the infrastructure at low cost and speed of how information is being shared and the impact on helping people and all those variables has sailed a long time ago, going back to the first 1 or 2 events that we were
I
affected
like what
by.
you say though about helping people, because it is now a loop. It's not merely information consumption.
Yes.
It is a way to act and participate.
If you look at what's going on, it's just one big Facebook comments plugin, isn't it? Right? Because what really matters now, but pay attention, because here's where I think it's fascinating, Leo. I think as our personalities and our true identities, our social equity in our space is so important. And, you want to take, you want to give, and clearly everything we're doing, one of my favorite things, listen, I'm as much of a businessman as anybody, right? I mean, that's where I come from, right? That's where I come from. And my favorite video I've ever made isn't one of the 1,000 episodes of Wine Library TV or the other hundreds of episodes I've done on my personal blog. It's one specific video, which is that legacy is greater than currency. What we're doing right now, our great-great-grandchildren are going to watch this right this second. Hey, little Johnny. Like literally, we are documenting our lives with our decisions and our supports and the things that we're doing.
Right.
And I think people are starting to understand that slowly but surely. And we all have a way we want to view ourselves. And it's impacting us. And it's a very, very big deal. The collective betterness of human nature is coming out because what the internet is doing is taking away the shadows from society.
We live in public.
Now I do want
that's happening.
I do want to disagree. Like
you're making a mistake. Don't forget, this is being recorded, and one day your grandkids are going to think you're an idiot.
Well, here's what I want to disagree
with Johnny's grandpa.
I want to disagree with the idea that the ship
Little
has sailed.
Stevie's about to think you're an idiot.
You say the ship has sailed as if like this is a story that's 3 or 4 years old. This is a story that's 50 years old. This is not a case where something's happened and everything's changed all at once. We're seeing a progressive procedural refinement, an increase in resolution of it. The ship sailed in the 1950s when they were able to show us footage of the war front or of the earthquakes.
Why
and
not the
that's-
1920s when they were able to
it's a
communicate?
continuum.
Everything is exactly. This is exactly.
What I'm saying is we're giving examples about Japan. Nothing I've heard from a Japan story is any different than I've heard from a Haiti or a Chile or a New Zealand story. They're just nuances on the bigger
Well, but the
issue
big
at
difference,
hand,
Brian,
right?
is that it's not from the. We didn't have to wait for the journalists to get there.
That's
the
right.
witnesses can now tell the world, and that's
Peer-to-peer.
a big difference. Everybody has
I
their
agree.
Gutenberg press.
Absolutely, but Gary seems to have this attitude. You shrug your shoulders like, Christchurch, Japan. What's the difference? I say there is a difference because every tragedy has its own unique story, and it is important that we recognize it and that we react independently to
No,
it.
what I think you did was you misunderstood what I was saying, which was all the nuances are different, right? I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying the top line thesis of how this is all happening is the same general thought.
Of course, and what I'm saying is that goes
Group
back,
hug.
like you said, to the
Hug now.
1920s.
You agree?
No, but really the point I think that Brian was making is germane, which is it's coming into focus. So you're right. This has been going on for a long time. You're right. This is nothing new. But at the same time, we're just starting to apprehend that it's happening. Yes, it's been happening all along, but we're starting to see it and understand it. You're maybe ahead of us. You wrote the book, The Thank You Economy. You understand it maybe a little better than others.
I think
but
people that are at
it's-
this conference, listen, I understand.
We're
It's
starting
always
to
somewhere in
see it.
between.
We're starting to understand it now, and I think that's the point.
But the other thing about Japan is that it is going faster and more widespread because it is a much more connected country than even New Zealand. Definitely Haiti.
Sure.
Well, there's a dark side to this, which is that it's also a rich country we care about more
Yes.
than
Yes.
Haiti and some other countries where this has happened. And I think that's something we have to face up to. This
Well,
is
New
weird.
Zealand's a
Our
very,
We're
coverage
going to
now.
take a
fits in
break,
that.
but I love the learning. I love the discussion. What I'd like to do when we come back is find out what you've learned at South by Southwest this week. So we're going to come back. We'll give you all a chance to speak. We've got a great panel here and a great audience. Thank you at Momo's. We really had a great time. I hope you're enjoying the show. And as long as we're talking about this, I think there's one thing that's got to be, if you're talking about legacy, if you're talking about little Johnny, if you don't have a website, you don't have anything. It all starts
What a
with a
transition.
presence on the net.
What a mess.
He's the
That
pro.
was beautiful.
He's the pro.
If you don't have GaryV.com, if you don't have WineLibrary.tv,
You're cheating the future.
if you're cheating little Johnny, where's he going to find you? If you don't have Afterlife.me, if you don't have Schwood.com, you got to have these. Of
course.
That's why if you don't have a domain name, here's a chance to get one. 10% off, as a matter of fact. I'm talking about Hover.com.
Little Johnny's going to like you 10% more.
Yeah, we've all been through this, going to that other place where you have to click 100 times and get around all the dancing people and things just to get a domain name. That's why I like Hover.com. It's Canadian. That means it's better.
Oh my gosh.
At least it's nicer, right? It's
polite.
nicer. It's more
Colder.
polite. Hover.com.
They're better at comedy.
You can register your domain there. And
Tell us
you-
about it.
No, they speak perfect English. It's amazing.
Tomorrow.
Automatically, you get the Who Is privacy. That's built in. They don't no extra charge, no upsell on that. They have a great feature, which I like, no hold on customer service calls Monday through Friday during business hours. You will never be put on hold. You'll get a representative, and you will talk to that representative, and they will not put you on hold. You don't have to listen to the crappy music or the weird ads. And if you use TWiT right now as the offer code, you'll get 10% off your domain. I do want to mention, they also will take domain transfers. They do a great thing. They'll charge you $10 for the transfer, but extend your domain name for another year. So it's a $10 extra year, and the transfer is all built in. So it's just a really great service. I am a big fan. We are moving all of our sites over. I invite you to try it. If you're thinking of a new domain name or you want to move your old domain name over, when the kids were born, I don't know if you did this, Gary V, but I got AbbieLaporte.com and I got HenryLaporte.com.
Yeah, I made the same play with Misha.
It might be old school, but I just feels like maybe they won't need it. It's not too late, Brian Brushwood.
I'm getting good right now.
Twit.hover.com. Do it today. All right.
I'm going to beat you to it and sell it back to you.
It's a race. See who can get Misha.
Yeah, exactly.
Misha
Little Johnny will
Vaynerchuk.
sell to little Stevie.
You're going to have to go to Wikipedia to find out the right name, sucker.
By the way, on that note, I've heard of somebody closing a deal this week of selling their Twitter name for $100,000.
What was the name? Do you know?
They asked me not
Jason
to say.
Calacanis?
It's somebody who's an individual, and they had the name of a major brand.
Wow.
And
Oh, I bet I know who it is.
Who?
We don't have to say.
Joe Rolex.
But I mean, I've heard of people. They secure a
100
name.
grand.
that
100
would
grand's
be-
a real number.
100
That would-
grand.
that would be a
Earlier, when
lucrative
Callie Lewis is
brand.
here, she's wearing a T-shirt that says @Callie Lewis. I mean, that has become a very important part of your brand, hasn't it? He's really registering it.
really registered.
He's really doing it. He is such a bad man. All right, let's start on the left, and we'll move around, starting with Sarah Lane of TNT and iPad Today. We did an iPad Today show yesterday. We'll
We
do it
did.
on
We'll
Thursday.
roll a lot of that footage into our show next Thursday.
Yep. What did you learn at South by Southwest this week?
That the people working at the hospital are very nice.
Poor Sarah had an
I know.
earache.
Oh, no. It's not. No, honestly, I will say, I mean, this is apart from the whole geek part of South by Southwest Interactive, is that I do find that whenever I come to Texas, and I know this isn't just Austin, Austin just happens to be the only city I've been to in Texas, there is a certain niceness. I can't put my finger on it, but I see it everywhere.
I think they're all Canadians.
It's the Canada of Texas.
The Canada of Texas.
They got funny Canadian accents then.
Yeah.
But this year is the biggest year, at least for Interactive. I
It's
mean, we've all heard the stories. You know, they said last year was the biggest year, and this year is,
Double.
a third bigger. And I found that more than ever, I'm not running into all the peeps down on 6th Street the way that I have in years past.
good point.
I've got to go seek out my buddies.
That's a good
Or, even more so, I have to go seek out people that I want to meet, because we're not all going to be at the same party because there's 5 of them.
Right.
And they all start at 7. And then at 10, there's another thing. And then Gary's got his cool, fun underground party, and it's like, now I have to make choices. And I'm not
You
saying
better
that that's a
come to my
bad
party.
thing. What did you say?
Nothing.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you have to, it's like being at a big music venue, and
Yeah.
there's 6 bands.
It's less
you just
clubby,
have to
though.
choose.
In a way, I like it that it's less clubby because there's more diversity, more variety.
It's less clubby, but then you got the CNN truck and the CNN grill, and it's like,
Yeah, like, what
there's
the
a
hell are
certain
they doing
aspect.
here?
And I'm not bagging on CNN at all,
I
but there
am.
is something about it that you sort of go, oh wow, South by Southwest is starting
Yeah,
to become
grow up.
an everyman type of event, and it's not little anymore. It's grown up.
It's all grown up. Tom Merritt, what have you learned this week?
Well, I got 3 things. One, Sarah is an incredible trooper. Like, she's got a fairly severe ear infection. And she's like, no, I'm there. What do you need? I'm ready to do TNT. I'm doing TWiT. Yeah. Oh, I just have to go to the hospital real quick, and then I'll be back.
Thank
so
you, Sarah.
That's
big
cool.
props to Sarah
What a
for
big kid.
not really whining or anything. Just
Wow,
just
thank
sticking
you.
with it.
She's a pro.
That's
Number
what you
2,
learned.
it's really nice to cover South by Southwest with a bunch of other people.
It's a lot easier.
Jason
isn't it?
Howell knows what I'm talking about.
Last year it was me, a backpack, and a camera on a staff.
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
like Gandalf.
This is
Crowd
amazing.
surfing.
Yeah.
Crowd
You looked a little
Crowd
like
surfing.
yeah.
Crowd
yeah.
surfing.
We've come a long way.
None
baby.
shall pass. But third, I am impressed that South by Southwest Interactive has kept growing. There was a dot-com bust, right? And South by Southwest Interactive actually got bigger. There was a recession, and Interactive got bigger. And, we're all talking about the problems of it getting bigger, and it's less intimate, and you can't find people as much. But I think it's a testament to something. We were talking about this on TNT, that this isn't got a product. This isn't CES where it's all about the latest gadgets. This isn't even Comic-Con where it's like finding out the new movie announcements or what's happening in the fantasy world. It's hard to put your finger on what this is. And in fact, I don't want to steal Brian's line because
Steal away,
I think
sir.
he's got the finger on him.
Just say the following is a retweet.
No. I'm going to let you talk about it, but he's got a really good point about what he thinks it is. But I think we all have a different perspective on what we get out of it, but they've built something really good here that allows you to get out of it what you want and learn something without having to like sit in a boring conference if you don't want to.
Sure as hell ain't boring. Thank you, Tom. Jeff Jarvis.
So I saw on Twitter as I was arriving somebody say, I've never been before, but how do I act like a veteran? And my advice was, you complain that it's not as good as last year.
South by is so over.
Yeah, it's
Just say that.
so commercial.
Jump the beluga.
I will say this year, maybe it's because I'm old and haven't shaved and look young like Gary, because of separating us up into tribes, I think they've hurt the hallway, and the hallway is the whole value, which is what you're saying, Sarah. Is that if I stood in the convention center, my whole world passed. My whole world, the whole tribe, right? And now I'm in the, by the way, tomorrow, 5 o'clock, I'm in the Hyatt, speaking about publicness. It's halfway to Dallas, but please all come. It's a long way. It's over the river. There's a shark there. We're going to jump over it and go see it. Sorry for the plug. But that's the point. I was going from the Sheraton to the Hyatt, and if I'm sitting in a bad session, you used to see on Twitter, there was the whole point is you go next door. Now you got to go 20 minutes. You can't do it. So the question becomes necessarily, should there be a scarcity to South by? Right? You're right. The good thing is it grows, but and the whole discussion of too big is ludicrous. It's really rather snobby. But there's a practical question of the reason I'm here is because of you, Goombas, right? Is because of the tribe and the people I know and want to meet new people and all that. And I want to mix with people with different interests. And now the interests are there's journalism and there's social and there's technology. And I regret
Here's the
that.
women panel over here.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know what you do about it. So what would that mean? It would mean that you'd have to sell out. It would mean that you'd have, by sell out I mean small s, small o. Have fewer sessions, have fewer seats, and just cap South by Southwest. What do you think of that?
Maybe they stick a tip from IRC and spawn new conferences.
That's what I would do. You're exactly right. So I don't want that either. So I don't know how does South by Southwest scale. It's a scale problem. It's having like
Let's
every
just all stay here for a month.
Make it longer.
The last 10 standing are the cool ones.
I think we need new.
Year one.
I think we need new social tools. That's what I think that's what we're lacking here.
Yes, yeah.
A few more tools to connect with our friends.
Gina Trapani, smarterware.org.
This is my 6th year at South by Southwest, and every year I swear that I'm not going to come back because it's too big and I'm a snob. But then I come back to relearn the lesson that I love learning at a tech conference is that it's all about the people. The internet is made of people. Your relationships are more important than your iPad and your apps and your startup. And I love coming here and hanging out with really creative, cool, fun folks. And especially for someone who doesn't live in San Francisco or New York, it's really cool for me to come to South by and actually be able to see my friends checked in on Foursquare a couple blocks away versus like in another city. So I'm really happy that you all are here, and I'm thrilled to be here.
That's great. Thank you.
It's all about the people.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
I think I'm going to piggyback off of Gina's phenomenal point, which is that, I came here 4 years ago, and nobody really knew who I was. I had a wine show on the internet, so there was a couple people that kind of knew, and it was a big coming out party for me. And I just remember trying to talk to some of the cool kids, and people kind of brushed me off. And I've really enjoyed this year because more people recognize me, but what I've been most impressed with is, wow, there are some really smart, really passionate, 25 and under kids, or 45 and older people, that are trying to break through. But it's true, Jeff. There's a big thing I always talk in my talks, which is that I try to change my seat when I'm on flights, and I fly a lot, and try to sit with a 90-year-old person because I think they've played the game that we've lived, right? And none of them ever say they wanted more money or other things. They wish they did more things they loved or spent more time with their family. And I'm always like, geez, these guys have played the game. They all say the same thing. They played the game. So that's what you need to focus on. I think what's been really hitting me is I've been going out of my way to have conversations with just new people, first-year people, trying to give feedback or help, and just listening to a million pitches about a bunch of different things. And I've been very impressed with the collective wisdom, young and old. And Gina's got it pegged. This thing only is on the back of the people in the room.
Love it. Thank you, Gary V.
Tell you what
Brian
I
Brushwood.
learned, Leo.
What did you learn?
I learned the importance of registering my daughter's domain name, pennybrushwood.com. Now registered. But also what we were talking about on Tech News Today, and I forget who tweeted it out originally, and I retweeted it live on the show, is CES is to gadgets as South by Southwest is to relationships. There's an ineffable quality to having a beer with someone and feeling a connection with them that will yield dividends years down the road. And you won't even remember how you met that person, but all of a sudden you become a featured item on their blog or whatever. It's about those relationships and the connections. And as far as it getting too big, that is the perennial question. Is there anyone here who lives in Austin? Here in the audience, make some noise. Okay, we got a bunch of...
A lot of people.
For 17 years, I've been hearing about how Austin has gotten too big. And of course, there's some growing pains, but I think by and large, Austin has acquitted itself very, very well. And I think what you guys are feeling is the same type of growing pains that the people who live here in Austin experience as well. And I'm just thrilled you guys dig the town enough to keep coming back. It's
a great town.
Thanks for keeping it weird, Brian.
78751.
I'm doing my parts.
Brian Brushwood. Finally, Lisa Bettany, what have you learned this week?
Well, this is only my second South by Southwest, and I think just the impression from last year to this year is just how successful you can be. And how you can start with literally nothing, and how so many people are doing this now. Like, I just made an app,
right,
and how literally there isn't one story, like you say, of this South by. Like, it's not mobile. It's that everyone can do this. Everyone can just learn how to do it and get an app out or start a startup, and it's a really, like, there's a lot of positive energy.
So great to have you all. The thing I've learned is if you want to have a really good party, come to Austin, come to Momo's, and get your whole friends and family and everybody to come out and join us. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Sarah Lane, Merritt,
Thanks, Leo.
Jarvis, Gina, Trapani, Gary V, Brian Brushwood, Lisa Bettany, Peter, Rojas, Ryan. I could go on and on. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next week. Another TWiT is in the can. Good night, everybody.
Server's completely collapsed. So here's the deal. I'm just trying to get the thing up, but I have a hell of a time. What blue screens? Like, forget it. I'm killing you. Round the horn.